Now we sat in South Africa, where its latest mining overhaul could be mired in a long legal battle after the Chamber of Mines, which of course represents South Africa's biggest producers, vowed to stop the changes. Now the government wants companies to ensure that South African assets are 30% black owned within 12 months, up from a previous level of about 26%. Of course, that means that several of the country's biggest mining companies would have to sell new stakes, raising the risk of a dilution for existing investors. Now, the new rules don't give credit for deals already concluded and from which black shareholders have since divested. Now, earlier on, I spoke to Angelo Fick. He's a senior researcher at TV News broadcaster ENCA via Skype. And I asked him whether producers' concerns that these new rules will deter investment in the sector and certainly serve as a nail in the coffin for the mining industry were valid.
Ownership is, of course, the major issue here, because the government of the Republic of South Africa has declared this to be the second phase of radical economic transformation. And by that they mean that they want more and more of the economy to be in black hands, because black people make up, of course, the vast majority of South Africa's population. And too much of the wealth really rests with only 10% of the population. And so that shift is essential for government. But of course, the details in this mining charter is of real concern to corporate investors in South Africa and to those corporations with interests in mining, because they believe that, of course, the profit will be impacted on, and there will be some concerns about the sustainability of the industry for the next 100 years.
Now, Angelo, like you alluded to, South Africa's mining industry, it has faced some turbulent times in the past few years, shedding about 60,000 jobs over the past 5 years. Does the industry need this overhaul?
Well, I think if the mining industry in South Africa is to survive, it has to be part of the larger changes in South Africa. Now, in the past, and people like Merle Lipton, the historian, has traced the way in which apartheid and colonial governments relied on the mining industry, and the mining industry relied on those governments and their policies to ensure cheap labor and a certain kind of underskilling and regular supply of that labor. Somebody who is currently the Secretary General of the African National Congress that forms the government of the Republic of South Africa, he himself holds a master's degree on the history of mining, and he is infinitely better placed who is very well placed to look at the question of the declining number of laborers, because he, of course, worked on the history of labor issues in the mining industry and traces the decline of the number of jobs between the 1980s and the 1990s. So yes, because of increased mechanization, a change in the industry, a change in global demand for which mined products are going to be necessary, has seen a decline in traditional mining in South Africa around gold and coal, and an incline in, and of course, mixed fortunes for mining in sectors like platinum and other precious metals. Now, of course, mining is at the moment in South Africa an export economy where raw materials are exported. And one of the concerns in the South African economic circles for those who wish to see greater impact and positive impact for the majority of people is to change the way in which mining benefits South Africans in the world, and to bring manufacturing into the country and processing of minerals back into the country, because that has not traditionally been part of the mining sector here. The raw material is mined and exported as raw material, and there isn't a lot of processing here.
Now, realistically, given the fact that this issue will be taken to court as soon as next week, when will we see this charter see the light of day?
Well, that all depends on the court process, and that's likely to be a protracted process, because we know that this involves intricate legal arguments. It involves notions of or appeals to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and protection of corporate rights. And it also involves, presumably, equity legislation, and that's partly what the African National Congress has been pushing. And I suspect that what's likely to happen in this court process is that government will fight tooth and nail, or will want to be seen to fight tooth and nail on behalf of the majority, while balancing out the necessity of attracting foreign direct investment into the country.